Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Niccolò Machiavelli. Have you ever felt like a pawn in somebody else's game? Like you were never the main character in your own story, but a supporting role in theirs? Maybe it was someone you trusted, a friend, a partner, and maybe you didn't even realize it until it was too late, until you were drained, used, and discarded. The truth is, whether we like to admit it or not, most of us have played this role at some point. We've all been tools, used to serve someone else's ambition, ego, or desire. And it hurts. Not because it surprises us, but because deep down, we hope we meant more. The feeling of being used can leave a bitter taste. A mixture of anger, confusion, and a deep, lingering sense of worthlessness. Like being a ghost in your own life. Present, but invisible. And what's worse is that this isn't even some rare occurrence. It's everywhere. At work, in friendships, even in love, because not everyone sees people as people. Some people see people as means to an end, and in their eyes, you're only useful until you're not. Centuries ago, in the heart of the Renaissance, one man pulled back the curtain on this brutal reality. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, a political philosopher who dared to speak the truth about human nature. He wasn't cynical, he was realistic. He didn't believe people were evil, but he did believe most people act out of self-interest. In his legendary book, The Prince, Machiavelli doesn't tell us to be cruel. He tells us to open our eyes and see that the world isn't ruled by kindness or fairness, but by strategy, by power, and by survival. He never actually said the ends justify the means, but his philosophy danced dangerously close to it. To Machiavelli, if achieving power required cruelty, manipulation, or deceit, so be it. What mattered was the result. And while his book was intended for monarchs, his ideas seep into modern life more than we'd like to admit. Because in today's world, power doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it sits across from you asking for favors. Sometimes it's that friend who only calls when they need something. Machiavelli showed us how to recognize when we're being used, and more importantly, how to stop it. Because once you see the game for what it is, you stop being the pawn. So in this video, we're going to dive into Machiavelli's brutal wisdom, not to become cold or cynical, but to become aware, to protect our energy, our boundaries, and our worth. Number 1. Understand that people are self-interested. Before we can ever stop being used, we need to understand something fundamental, something Machiavelli didn't sugarcoat. People are self-interested. Now, he didn't say this out of cynicism. He said it because it was true then, and it's still true today. Most people act based on one principle, their own advantage. Not love, not loyalty, not fairness, just interest. Machiavelli believed that beneath the surface of our social lives, our friendships, our workplaces, even our families, people are calculating. This is the first step to never being used again. You must stop expecting people to always have good intentions. Not everybody wishes you harm, but most people will prioritize themselves when given the choice. Now, that doesn't mean we should be paranoid. It means we should be aware. But here's the nuance even Machiavelli wouldn't deny. Not everyone is manipulative. There are a rare few, friends, lovers, mentors, who act with true care. But even then, Machiavelli would warn, do not judge their loyalty by their words, but by what they sacrifice for you when it costs them something. Because here's the twist. Most people hide this self-interest. They wear masks, they project warmth, generosity, and concern, but Machiavelli reminds us that this is often performance. So how do you protect yourself? You pay attention. If someone is being overly kind, ask yourself, why now? What do they gain from this? Is this generosity or strategy? Machiavelli would argue if their kindness serves a purpose, it's not kindness, it's currency. And once you start thinking this way, not bitterly but clearly, you begin to set boundaries. You no longer give your time, your trust, or your energy away freely, and you stop explaining yourself to everyone. Number 2. Set and enforce your boundaries. Why do people take advantage of us? Often it's not because they're evil, it's because we never said no. We left the door open, and they walked right through. Machiavelli observed that most people don't protect their time, their energy, or their emotional space. They allow others to pull them in every direction, doing favors, solving problems, absorbing complaints. They say yes when they want to say no. And so they're used, not once, but over and over again. But here's the thing. People only take what you let them take. If someone is constantly asking for help, leaning on you for support, or even playing the victim to get your sympathy, it's because they've learned you'll say yes. You've trained them to expect it. And over time, they gain power. Over your schedule, your emotions, your peace of mind. While you, on the other hand, become powerless, just following their requests, meeting their needs while yours are forgotten. This is why boundaries aren't just helpful, they're essential. Think of them like a soldier's shield in battle. No soldier goes to war without one. The shield blocks the arrows, it protects, it defines the line between me and not me. In the same way, your boundaries block the constant demands, the manipulation, the guilt-tripping. They create space between you and those who would drain your energy, not because you hate them, but because you finally value yourself. This, Machiavelli would say, is the first real act of strength. To stop waiting for others to respect you and to start enforcing that respect yourself. Because here's the hard truth. People don't act from goodwill, they act from self-interest. And if using you helps them get ahead, they will. But the moment you set a boundary, you interrupt that pattern. You take back control and you tell the world, you don't get to decide my limits, I do. And it can start small. The next time someone asks for a favor, ask yourself, do I truly want to do this? Is this fair, or is this another ask in a long, long line of taking? And if the answer is no, say no. Even if your voice trembles, even if they get upset. Say it with calm. Say it with clarity. And say it without guilt. You don't owe anyone your time, your energy, or your peace, especially if it comes at the cost of your own well-being. Because the moment you start saying no, you're not just setting a boundary, you're sending a message. A message that you'll no longer be used, that you're not a tool, a resource, or a safety net. You are a person with limits, with value, with power. And in reclaiming that power, you take the first step back to yourself. Number 3. Control the image that others have of you. Machiavelli teaches us that perception shapes reality. The way people treat you, the respect they give, the boundaries they cross, the value they place on your time, all stem from one thing: the image you've allowed them to form of you. If you appear soft, naive, or overly trusting, people won't hesitate. They'll use you. Not necessarily because they're bad, but because you've shown them it's possible. And in a world driven by self-interest, that's all it takes. This is why Machiavelli famously said, It's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Now, he wasn't telling us to become tyrants. He was revealing a hard truth. Power comes from perception, and perception comes from how you carry yourself. If you're always available, always forgiving, always the one bending over backward to please, people will start to see you as a tool, not a person. They'll smile, they'll thank you, but deep down they'll assume you're easy to control. But if you walk with calm confidence, if you speak with intention, if you maintain a sense of self-respect and, dare I say it, mystery, people take notice. They step more carefully, not because they fear your cruelty, but because they respect your strength. And this strength doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It shows itself in its restraint. Machiavelli said, "Control your image by controlling your reactions." The more emotionally reactive you are, the easier you are to read and to manipulate. Just ask any poker player. People who lose their cool, who overshare, who make their pain visible to the world, they hand others the playbook on how to use them. So pause before you respond. Breathe before you speak. Hold back when you feel the urge to spill everything. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world. And the more they don't know, the less power they have. Mystery creates leverage. Before sharing a personal detail, ask yourself, does this strengthen my position or weaken it? If you're unsure, say nothing. Let silence be your strategy. Machiavelli believed that those who are hard to predict become hard to control. If people can't anticipate your next move, they can't prepare their advantage. That uncertainty is power. It keeps them cautious. It keeps you in control. So don't just protect your time, protect your presence. Don't just build boundaries, build mystique. And never forget, in a world where everyone is trying to get something, the person who controls their image controls the game. Number 4. Practice generosity in a measured way. Generosity is a beautiful thing when done right. It can show appreciation, build trust, open hearts. But as Machiavelli warns us, too much generosity can become your downfall. Why? Because people don't just receive generosity, they get used to it. And the moment something becomes expected, it stops being a gift and becomes a demand. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He wrote that while generosity can win favor, it must be used wisely, not out of guilt, not out of impulse, and definitely not out of habit. Because when you're always the one paying, always the one helping, always the one giving without pause, you're not seen as kind. You're seen as a provider, a resource, a means to an end. And soon, instead of being grateful for your kindness, they start to treat it as an expected level of service. And when you finally say no, they won't thank you for all the times you did say yes. Instead, they'll feel offended, betrayed, as if you've taken something from them. That's the danger. This is why Machiavelli believed that generosity should be strategic. Not manipulative, not selfish, but measured. You give when it matters. You give with intention. You give on your terms, not theirs. Because if you're too quick to give, people won't see it as a reflection of your character. They'll see it as a weakness they can exploit. Instead, give in a way that maintains your power. Be generous, but remain unpredictable. Be kind, but stay discerning. Give, but don't bleed yourself dry. Think of it like this. If a king gave away gold every time someone asked, soon there'd be no kingdom left. But if he gave gold during moments of strategy, during alliances, negotiations, times when it truly meant something, then his generosity would carry weight. It would mean something. So the next time you're about to offer something, your time, your money, your energy, ask yourself, does this serve a purpose? Am I giving to build strength, or am I giving because I don't know how to say no? Will this be remembered, or will it be expected again and again? If the answer doesn't serve your long-term well-being, hold back. Because real generosity doesn't come from giving everything. It comes from giving the right thing at the right moment to the right person. And when you do that, your generosity becomes rare, valued, respected, powerful. Number 5. Appear virtuous, but be strategic. Among all of Machiavelli's teachings, one rule stands out, misunderstood by many, yet powerful in its simplicity. He wrote, "It's better to appear virtuous than to actually be virtuous." At first, it sounds like a betrayal of everything we're taught, like he's encouraging us to be fake or manipulative. But that's not what Machiavelli meant. He wasn't dismissing the importance of goodness. He was exposing a harsh truth. In a world where people are always watching, judging, and competing, your virtue can be turned against you. Not because kindness is wrong, but because kindness without caution becomes predictable. And in the real world, predictable people get played. Machiavelli's lesson wasn't to abandon virtue, but to protect it. He was telling us to wear our goodness like a shield, not to expose it completely. Let others see your generosity, your fairness, and your integrity, but never give them full access to your intentions. When people know you'll always say yes, always help, always forgive, they stop seeing that as strength and instead start seeing it as weakness. And that's when you get used. Take this typical workplace example. You want to succeed, so you go the extra mile. You share your ideas, you support everyone, hoping for that pay rise or promotion you've proven you so deserve. But instead, your manager, seeing you're able to handle your workload effectively, just gives you more work to do and more responsibilities, but no more money or better job title, just greater expectations for the same reward. And you're left wondering what you did wrong. The truth is, you were too open, too eager to please, too easy to read. That's why Machiavelli would say, be virtuous, but not naive. Be kind, but not predictable. Show your character, but never reveal your entire strategy. Learn the art of restraint. Before you speak, ask yourself, does this person need to know this, or am I just giving too much away? Because true strength isn't loud, it's measured. Machiavelli's lesson here is about being wise, guarded, aware. In a world full of opportunities, loud goodness is often the first to be taken for granted. So yes, wear the mask of virtue, but always think like a strategist. That's how you stay respected. That's how you stay protected. Number 6. Keep your powers hidden. If Machiavelli warned us not to be too openly good, he also warned us not to reveal all our strengths or plans. In The Prince, he writes, "A prudent man should always follow in the footsteps of great men and imitate those who have been supreme." While it sounds like a call to imitate the greats, Machiavelli is pointing towards something far more strategic. He's telling us to study the great minds of history, not just for inspiration, but for insight into how they kept their power. And one of the things they rarely did? Reveal their full hand. Machiavelli understood a timeless truth. Mystery is power. The more people know about you, your goals, your next moves, your emotional triggers, the easier it is to manipulate you. But when they're unsure of your capabilities or your intentions, they tread carefully. You create an advantage simply by being unpredictable. This is why Machiavelli warns against always announcing your ambitions or showing the full extent of your abilities. In fact, the most powerful people are often underestimated, and that works in their favour. If no one sees you coming, they can't stop you. If no one knows your weaknesses, they can't exploit them. Discretion becomes a shield, and silence a weapon. Whether it's in your career or your relationships, be selective about what you share and with whom. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Machiavelli again reminds us here, most people are driven by self-interest. So before you trust anyone with your goals or vulnerabilities, ask yourself, what do they want in return? What's the reason behind their support or their curiosity? Sometimes people offer kindness just to get close enough to extract something from you. Information, favors, influence. That's why it's crucial to keep a part of yourself guarded. You don't need to be cold or distant, but you should always maintain a layer of strategic reserve. So keep your plans close. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Move quietly, but deliberately. When you hold some of your strength in reserve, people won't know what to expect from you, and that unpredictability keeps you powerful. In the end, Machiavelli's advice is simple but profound. Never be completely readable. Power lies in being respected, not fully understood. And the less people know about how you think, feel, or plan, the harder it is for them to play games with your life. Number 7. Command respect, not likability. Machiavelli wasn't interested in winning a popularity contest. He was interested in winning. Period. And here's what he saw. The desperate need to be liked makes people weak. They say yes to everything, avoid conflict, and become so agreeable that they lose their edge. Machiavelli warns us that this is the fastest way to be used, ignored, and forgotten. Because while being liked is nice, being respected is essential. This ties directly to his famous principle we discussed earlier. It's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But let's be clear, he wasn't telling us to become cruel or heartless tyrants. He wasn't preaching evil. What he was teaching is something most people never learn. That love is fickle, but respect lasts. You don't gain respect by trying to please everyone. You gain it by standing your ground. Think about it. The people you truly admire, are they the ones who always say yes? Are they the ones who give in, stay silent, or twist their values just to fit in? Of course not. You respect them because they have a backbone, because they have boundaries, and because they know when to say no. That's what Machiavelli was getting at. If you chase approval, people will step over you. But if you command respect, they'll think twice before crossing you. So how do you earn that kind of respect? By being firm, consistent, and grounded. When people see that your values don't shift with the wind, when they realize you aren't easily swayed by guilt or flattery, that's when they start to take you seriously. That's when you become someone they don't just like, but respect. We've all been there, trying to fit in, to be liked, to keep the peace, even when it costs us our dignity. But there comes a point where you have to stop bending and return to yourself, to your principles, to the line you refuse to cross. Because when you respect yourself, others will follow. When you stand tall, others adjust their posture. And when you show that your kindness has limits, people pay attention. Machiavelli's message isn't about ruling with fear or harshness. It's about carrying yourself with authority. So yes, be kind, be fair, be generous, but never at the cost of your self-respect. Let people know that you're willing to help, but not to be used. That you'll listen, but not be manipulated. That you're good, but not a pushover. Because in the end, it's not the like to lead, it's the respected. And as Machiavelli would say, that's the difference between being admired and being remembered. Number 8. Stay independent. In The Prince, Machiavelli gives a striking warning. He who builds on the people builds on the mud. In other words, if your strength relies on someone else, whether that's emotionally, financially, or socially, you're standing on shaky ground. The moment your foundation is outside of yourself, you're exposed. You become vulnerable. Machiavelli's solution? Build yourself in a way that you don't have to lean on anyone. That's where real power comes from. Self-sufficiency. And in today's world, this idea is more relevant than ever. It's not just about financial independence, though that's important too. It's also about emotional and social independence. These are the foundations you need to work on first. Because if you constantly rely on others for validation, comfort, or a sense of belonging, you give away your control. But if you develop your own sense of confidence, your own support systems, and your own internal strength, no one can take that away from you. That's why Machiavelli believed you must focus on building yourself. That means developing your skills, learning useful knowledge, and cultivating emotional strength. The less you need from others, the less control they can exert over you. And no, this doesn't mean you shut everyone out or become a lone wolf. It just means that you're in charge of your own well-being. You make the rules, you call the shots. This principle can be applied to almost every part of your life. In your career, if you're stuck in a job that you hate but can't leave because you depend on that paycheck, you're giving away your power. In relationships, if you rely on someone else to feel whole or emotionally balanced, they now hold the key to your happiness. Machiavelli's insight here is simple but profound. True power is the ability to walk away when needed. And you can only do that when you're not dependent on anyone else to survive or to feel whole. So if independence is something you're currently struggling with, it might be time to take a step back and reflect. Where do you feel the most dependent? Start your transformation there. If you feel like you lack real-world skills that can help you earn on your own, consider investing your time in learning. Take a course, pick up a trade, or develop a monetizable talent. But be patient. Mastery doesn't come overnight, but with time and consistency. And from there, financial freedom will follow. If it's emotional dependence that holds you back, on your partner, your family, or your social circle, try to uncover the root cause. Ask yourself, where does this need come from? Why do I feel incomplete without them? Don't see it as a weakness. See it as a challenge, an opportunity to grow. Because once you develop your emotional core, once you become grounded in yourself, you become untouchable. In the end, independence isn't just about freedom, it's about protection. Because when you're independent, people can't use you, they can't manipulate or control you. You become solid, like a fortress built on stone. That's what Machiavelli meant. True strength comes from within, and the more self-reliant you are, the more powerful, respected, and unshakable you'll become. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to check out our full Philosophies for Life playlist, and for more videos to help you find success and happiness using ancient philosophical wisdom, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching.